Hi, I'm Bob Breithaupt from Capital University. I'm here to talk with you today about this great instrument, the drum set. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of the instrument. The drum set itself has a certain number of pieces, and that's depicted by the number of drums. So in this case, this is a four-piece drum set. It has certainly more components than that, but it has a snare drum, a tom-tom, a floor tom-tom, and a bass drum. These are relatively small drums, 14-inch snare drum diameter, 12-inch, 14-inch here, and 18-inch diameter bass. And the cymbals are of obviously different sizes, which we'll talk about later, and you'll see depicted in later examples of this book. But as we start talking about the drum set, really the most important component of the drum set itself is what I'm sitting on, the throne. We have to be able to sit squarely and evenly behind this instrument. We have to make sure that we start by positioning the bass drum and the snare drum and the hi-hat in the proper spot. So we do that by putting our feet on the pedals of the hi-hat and the bass drum, putting the cymbal here and drawing sort of an imaginary arrow through our back and across the first tom-tom here. This allows for great balance on the instrument, and it doesn't cause a certain percentage of the drum kit to be on one side or the other. You may have seen drummers before where the tom-tom is way back here, or a cymbal's way over here, or perhaps the hi-hat has been turned this way, causing the drummer to turn and face across the cymbal as opposed to across the front of the drum set. So that's an important consideration as we set up to the drums. Certainly we have to think about the distances between the drums, the distances as to whether the instrument is too low or too high. We sort of set up like this and make sure that the drum is set up in such a way that we don't strike our leg before we strike the drum, that we don't strike our leg before we hit the tom-tom, or that the cymbals are not too high. As we're talking about cymbals, we have to think about not only how they're positioned behind the drum kit or beside the drum kit, but also the angle and height. So the angle in particular is important because we want to be able to strike the cymbal in such a way that we throw the stick down and it comes off. So if that cymbal is too far angled like this, or perhaps too high, we're either going to have to reach up here like this, or it's going to strike at an angle which is going to inhibit the ability of the stick to rebound. So that's very important as we set up these instruments that we have. So that everything is set up logically. You know, sitting behind a drum kit is like sitting in a sports car. If you've ever sat in a sports car before, it's like a cockpit. Everything's within easy reach, and that's really what we want to try to do as we begin to play this instrument, the drum set.